shocked because, to be honest, Steven Espinoza had an unbelievable year. No, seriously, and I thought he was going to wind up getting it. I think he'll probably get it next year. But in all fairness, I really don't give a shit because I waited 18 years. I mean, I'm 18 years out of HBO, and I'm getting this award. But it's actually like sort of, honestly, it's really sort of cool because I'm, now that I'm not a young guy anymore, I'm in my like mid to late 50s, and you think about things like legacy, and to think that a lot of people remember a body of work that's 20 years old. That's pretty cool, and that it is fulfilling to me. Seth and I had a lot of history. We had a tremendous run together. We had our bumps in the road. Most of them were my fault. Some of them were his, but most of them were my fault. I remember before the 9/11 days, it was easier to sneak into an office building, and I literally snuck into the HBO building because it was an opening for the head lawyer for HBO Sports, and actually I was interviewing for a job with the Yankees. I was in my 20s, and Steinbrenner thought I was too young, and I was like all dressed up to go to my interview, and his secretary called and said, "Sorry, the boss canceled the interview, but there's a job opening at HBO." And I literally snuck into the building, and I got into the lawyer's office at HBO, and I said, I'm the guy that should get this job. And he said, well, I'm about to hire somebody. We're literally making an offer today. And I said, you're going to make a big mistake because I'm the right guy. And I had like the right academic credentials and everything. But I knew that I had to get to Seth's office somehow because like I knew of Seth Abraham. He already had been for like years, like the Grand Poobah boxing on television. So I needed to get into his office, and I basically begged this guy to let me go see Seth. So I went to Seth's office, and we talked boxing for a little while. After about 10 minutes, he said, "You know more about boxing than I do." And then we actually said, "Is boxing your favorite sport?" And I said, "No, baseball's my favorite sport," which is still true. Boxing's my second favorite sport. But anyway, that was a Friday, and on Monday, my life changed. I got a job offer at HBO. They say that like you get older and you realize your parents knew a lot more than you thought. You get older, you also realize your old boss was a lot better than you thought. And I really wanted Seth to present this award to me because I learned a lot from him. I'm not a great employee. I'm maybe a little bit of a maniac as a boss too, but I'm a better boss than I am a boy. Seth, I was looking at that list of people that have won the Sam Taub Award, and at least 6 or 7 of them he directly hired, and 3 or 4 others worked for him at some point at HBO. Seth wanted to be surrounded by the best people, and for a long time it was Ross Greenberg and myself and Mark Taffet. All 3 of us now have won this award, and frankly, we were a friggin' handful, man. Like big egos and ambitious, and we were young. That's a bad combination, ego, ambition, youth, and we bumped heads all the time, and he had to deal with all of us on a regular basis. But he gave us the ability and the dominion to do what we wanted to do because he knew that we wanted HBO Sports to be the best it could be, and that we believed in boxing. We had a passion for boxing. We cared about boxing. And his bosses, and I'm going to single out one, but it's true of really all of them, but I'm going to single out Michael Fuchs, who was his boss through really when the period when I was rising at HBO. Michael was a boxing fan, and he was the chairman of HBO. His boss, Jerry Levin, was a boxing fan. He was the chairman of Time Warner. And these guys came to our fights all the time. But it also created expectations that were good as employees. They expected the best. They demanded the best. We were empowered and we were commanded to deliver the best. And it was a great time. It was a great period of time. It was an era of creativity. TVKO, and which is now HBO pay-per-view, was created like during this time. And it created the business paradigm for all of pay-per-view combat sports for the years to come. It was an era of great fights, You know, HBO was the place to watch boxing. The best fighters fought there, the best matchups. It was the best commentary with the great Larry Merchant, who was a mentor to me, Jim Lampley, you know, my dear friend Harold Letterman, and there's nobody in the whole sport of boxing that has more passion and love for the sport of boxing and for fighters than Harold Letterman. Our bosses viewed boxing as must-see programming. Simply the best was the tagline for HBO in those years. And we got a lot of like leeway. You know, if it took a little bit more money to make a fight that was that much greater, the money was always there. No one ever told me, honestly, no, if I gave them a good enough reason. You know, even when I said I want to do a series called Boxing After Dark that features a bunch of guys that no one's ever heard of before, but if you make great fights, people will come. And if Fuchs bet me $5,000 that I was wrong, and we set like a rating, and it tells you where boxing was at that time, because our like rating bet was at a 6 rating for the premiere of Boxing After Dark, and it did a 6.6 or something like that. Ray Stallone, who's here, probably knows better than me, but the rating was over 6. It did take Fuchs 6 years to pay me, but he paid me. I worked with a lot of people that were the best people to work with. I worked for people that were the best people to work for. What was true about HBO in those days is there was a passion for boxing that went from the very top, you know, all the way down to everybody's assistant. My assistant, when I was at HBO for a great period of time, my first assistant, Bree, thank you, she was great, she put up with me. After that, my assistant was Dave Itzkowitz, who went on to be vice president of just about every place. I want to just mention Rick Bernstein, Mark Payton, Dave Harmon, John Crystal, Thomas Odelfa, Kendall Reed, Tammy Cotel, the CompuBox guys, the great Ray Stallone, Kevin, Janet Adeli, Pam Waring, Linda Jackson, Barbara Thomas, Frank, Patrick, Tony, Ken, Dan. Those are the people I traveled with and lived with for 11 years. Like really, I saw them more than I saw my ex-wife and my family. That's probably why my ex-wife is my ex-wife. The last person I want to acknowledge is the late, great Artie Curry. There are a lot of people in this room who know Artie Curry. If you know Artie Curry, you know that Artie Curry was one of the best human beings on earth, and he embodied the best of what HBO Sports was in that 11 years that I worked there. If you don't know Artie Curry, I urge you, because a lot of young people in here, and I ain't that young anymore, but a lot of young people in here, look up Artie Curry. Because, you know, like there was an old saying, you know, what would Jesus do? Like I used to think to myself, what would Artie do? And what Artie believed was a fundamental truth about boxing. Didn't matter the network, really. I mean, it didn't matter the promoter. Didn't matter the television executive. Boxing's about the boxers. It's about the fighters. It's about great fighters, brave fighters, tough fighters, honest fighters in great matches. Great matches make great boxing. Great boxing makes great television. Thank you all, and thank you to all the fighters I've ever worked with in my career. Thank you very much. And thank you to whoever designed this award, because it's really cool. Thank you.